Hey everyone, it's Birth3 and I'm here in this review for Madharaasi, the new film directed by A.R. Murugadas and starring Sivakarthikeyan, Vidyut Jamwal, Rukmani Vasant, Shabir Kalarakal, Biju Menon, and Vikrant in the lead roles. Finally, after some subpar and not so great movies, A.R. Murugadas delivers a comeback with Madharaasi. No, when I was growing up, A.R. Murugadas was one of my favorite directors because he was always trying to do something different with each and every single film. But once I started watching a lot more movies, I realized that he borrowed from a lot of films as well. But even with that aside, I would say that A.R. Murugadas is one of the greatest commercial cinema directors in Tamil cinema history because he always did something different with every single film. And at his peak, he was really successful and really innovative in terms of his storytelling. And would I say that Madharaasi is on the level of, let's say, his best films like Gajini or Tupaki? No, I wouldn't say it's on that level, but Madharaasi is a very solid movie, and I'd say out of the last like 3 or 4 films that he's directed, this is a way better product. Now, Madharaasi happens to be a very A.R. Murugadas film because there's a lot of tropes and trademarks that you see from his other films that resides within this movie as well. For one, there's the over-explanation of certain characteristics or a situation or the definition of something being explained by a certain character. For example, the doctor in this movie, played by Talevasal Vijay, he's explained to Rukmani Vasant as to why Sivakarthikeyan's character is having this condition and what the characteristics are with this specific condition. There's another sequence in this film where there's a TV playing and they're explaining the word syndicate, which is pretty prevalent throughout this whole film, the idea of a syndicate. There's also the explanation by police officers throughout this whole movie where they're explaining why, if guns go rampant in the state, what would happen. There's the over explanation of other things as well, which again, I don't mind. It's pretty much a A.R. Murugadas quirk and kind of a trope that he always does in most of his films. And then there's the A.R. Murugadas trademark that you usually see in his films, where his main character has a specific quirk and characteristic that makes them stand out from your average Tamil cinema commercial hero. For this film, Sivakarthikeyan's character is going through the Frigoli delusion, and also when he's pushed to his mental limit, he gets into this animalistic instinct when he fights people. And I thought that even though it's a little bit animated and over the top at times, I still thought that the character was very interesting for the most part. And also, in true A.R. Murugadas fashion, he's borrowing from other films again. And again, I think that A.R. Murugadas is a very talented director. When he was at his peak and when he was making good films, he was making Tamil cinema feel more international. As a kid, I was watching Tamil cinema movies and feeling like, okay, I want to see them doing inventive and different things. And even though A.R. Murugadas was borrowing from, Hollywood films or other language movies, it was so cool to see Tamil cinema trying something different with each and every single film that he was directing. You know, like in Gajini, he borrowed from Memento and also Roman Holiday. In Marivu, he borrowed from pretty much Assassin's Creed. And in Katti, he borrows from, I forget if it was a TV show or a movie, but the sequence where Vijay's character is seeing blueprints in 3D, that's pretty much borrowed from another thing that was already done in the past. And again, if he acknowledges these things in interviews or whatever, I wouldn't care, but he doesn't really acknowledge that, and I kind of hope he does in the future. But in Madharaasi, he's borrowing from other films again because in the first sequence where the truck is ramming into all those cars is pretty much borrowed from Jason Bourne. The toe wagging thing to show that they're conscious. I won't say which character that sequence happens with, but that sequence is pretty much borrowed from the Kill Bill movies. And then also, Sivakarthikeyan's animalistic instinct is kind of borrowed from this Jet Li movie. I forget what it was called. The movie that I was thinking about for Jet Li was Unleashed. Pretty much when Sivakarthikeyan's character gets into this animal kind of mode, it kind of reminded me of Jet Li in that movie, even though they're very different characters, very different films, but I digress. The negatives in this film is pretty much, this is a very familiar story. It's very predictable. It's over the top in a lot of ways. But, I think that A.R. Murugadas has played it safe and smart here. And that's kind of a negative for me because, again, I love the fact that he always tried to do something different in his previous films. And I get it. He needs to make a comeback and he needs to make a surefire hit. And I guess that Madharaasi has become a hit. I don't know if it has, but I know it's made a lot of money. But yeah, this is a smart move for him. I hope that in the future, when he gets more opportunities again, he will try something different again in the future. But yeah, I felt like it was kind of a cop out to do something familiar and safe for this movie. Another negative is that even though I did like the romantic scenes, I felt like they were kind of drowning out the first half at times. Again, I don't know why Tamil cinema is so adamant in having every single element in their stories. Sometimes an action film just needs to have action. There doesn't need to be romantic scenes, but again, I digress. That's just my personal opinion. But the negatives aside, there are some good positives in this film, and ironically, one of the negatives is a positive here too. The over the top and kind of really animated nature of this film at times is kind of a positive as well because it seems like A.R. Murugadas is having fun here. And also Vidyut Jamwal is having fun here too. A.R. Murugadas for his last few films seems to be taking things a little bit too serious and he's not really enjoying himself as a director. And I feel like in films like, let's say, Spider or Sarkar or Darbar, those movies do have comedic moments and light moments, but I felt like those movies were taking themselves a little bit too harshly serious. Whereas here at Madharaasi, yes, there's a lot of serious moments, but I feel like the action sequences, some of the, the dialogue where some ridiculous things are happening, it felt like A.R. Murugadas was finally having some fun with the movie. And you can tell this movie felt a little bit different from his last 5 to 6 years of films. And even though I think that Sivakarthikeyan in this film is very good, he's very solid, I think that he does a great job of whatever is demanded from him. And he plays this character really, really well. And I think that Rukmini Vasant also is really good here too. I really hope she does more Tamil cinema movies because she has great, great, great screen presence. And Shabir Kalarakal does a great job here too. He's the guy who played Dancing Rose in Sarpata Paramare. And I thought that his character is very fun. But the biggest plus about this whole movie is Vidyut Jamwal. Man, I'm not even kidding. This is probably one of the most kick-ass villains I've seen in a Tamil cinema movie in quite some time. The man is having a ball here. He's doing some over-the-top things. This man is doing push-ups on a pipe in the top of a hospital room. I don't want to give away what happens right after that, but yeah, the guy is kick-ass. He is acrobatic. He's flying from wall to wall. He's shooting guns in a cool way. The first sequence of this film is him and Shabir fighting against the police officers, and they steal the show in that beginning sequence because, again, guns are shooting bullets all over the place. Bullets are flying all over the place in an animated way, but Vidyut swagger and his charisma is what made those sequences fun. And again, I really hope he does more Tamil cinema movies because he was great in Tupaki. I thought he was great in Anjan. And all the other films that he's ever done, I think he's always done a great job with showing the strong screen presence. And again, he is the huge highlight in this film because there's a fight sequence in the hospital where he's just won against 30 gunmen. And again, unrealistic. There's no way anyone could survive that, especially after getting shot. But, whatever. The guy does a great job of selling this kind of very charismatic, very over the top, and very annoyingly arrogant villain. And I think he deserves a lot more villain roles. I think he does a great job here. Anirudh's music is very solid here. I think that the songs are pretty catchy, but I wouldn't say they're on the level of, let's say, a Katti or Darbar. But yeah, Anirudh's background score is very solid. It's a big plus here too. And also a huge plus about this film is the cinematography and editing. This is a very crisply edited film and the cinematography is on point. I love the cinematography in this movie. And A.R. Murugadas films are usually shot really well, so it's not a surprise there too. But yeah, if you're looking for something different, Madharaasi is not for you. This is just an average run-of-the-mill revenge/action thriller. And again, I had fun. It's a 7.5 out of 10. It's not going to blow you away. It's not going to revolutionize Tamil cinema. But for what it's worth, in comparison to other big budget Tamil cinema movies this year, This is a lot better than most, and I'd say that I had a lot of fun. 7.5 out of 10.